Orcas are undoubtedly some of the most incredible animals on our planet. They are very smart and capable, but life in the sea can be tough even for the smartest animals, and sometimes even orcas get into trouble. This brings us to a beach in Marlborough in New Zealand. On the otherwise quiet stretch of beach, there was suddenly a flurry of excitement when local residents noticed a group of orcas not far from the shore. They were probably hunting, or perhaps just passing through. Either way, the residents considered themselves lucky to see such a large congregation of orcas to be seen. Some people watched them from the shore, a few even set up deck chairs and tried to take photos and videos. Eventually, night fell, and the orcas slowly made their way back into the open sea. The residents were quite excited about their special guests, and as the sun disappeared behind the horizon, they all went home and talked about what they had just seen. But the next day brought another surprise that was not as magical and delightful as the previous one. As morning broke and the tide washed in on the shore, an unexpected object lay in the sand. It was a young orca, about 6 meters long and weighing half a ton. It had beached itself at night and was now lying in the merciless Sunday. A local resident raised the alarm, and soon many gathered around the poor female orca, whom they called Lucy. Although they all knew she needed help, some hesitated. They had heard stories about these killer whales and had seen numerous videos of them in which they brutally hunted their prey. Some believed that they would be putting their own lives in danger if they helped. The orca would help, but there were many more people who understood that this beautiful sea creature deserved to live, and that they had to help him as soon as possible. So one by one, they went to help Lucy. They wrapped her with wet towels and sheets and poured water over her skin to keep her from drying out. She fidgeted and flailed around and seemed very irritated that she was stranded. Lucy looked panicked, especially because she was surrounded by people who were presumably putting her in even more danger. But the more hours went by, the more tired she became, and finally she just lay there still and motionless. At the moment, Lucy was still relatively healthy, but there was a very real chance that she would die if she was not returned to the water by the end of the day. Land is not an orca's natural environment, and it was of the utmost importance to get the animal back to the sea as soon as possible. But moving such a large and heavy animal is no easy task. For this reason, veterinarians from the Department of Conservation and even the military were called in. They had a mammoth task ahead of them. Even though it was an unusual task for everyone involved, they were determined to help. Lucy had been hunting seals near the shore. The young whale had obviously not expected the water depth to decrease so quickly, and as she chased after her prey, the animal unfortunately beached itself and was thrown by her momentum onto the sand of the beach. Sometimes whales can break free and push back into the sea, but this powerful young animal was washed too far onto shore. And now the tide had gone out, leaving her literally stranded. The original plan was to use straps and a strong boat to pull Lucy back into the sea. Once she was deep enough, she could free herself from the straps and swim on by herself. The idea was sound, but the seas were far too rough for the boat to be able to effectively pull the whale. Next, they tried to dig a channel behind Lucy, hoping that the water would get under her massive body and lift her, but that didn't work either. The orca was simply far too heavy for the shallow water to support. It had beached itself at such a high rate of speed that it had come far too far onto the sand had come. But finally, someone had a brilliant idea. If they could keep Lucy alive and as still as possible until the tide came back, they might be able to pull her up using floats and buoyancy aids. They could use the incoming tide in their favor and hopefully get her off the beach, away and back into the depths of the sea. That would also be a difficult task, but the humans were beginning to run out of options. Lucy would not survive on the beach much longer. So the huge team set to work and began preparations. But at that moment, something unbelievable happened. As the rescuers approached to put their plan into action, it seemed as though Lucy suddenly understood that help was at hand, and she began to act in a way that no one had expected. In fact, many people were surprised. Instead of resisting and making the job even harder, or lying completely still and not help at all, Lucy began to work with the people there. For example, if she sensed someone was trying to get something under her tail, she would lift it up to make it easier. That was really smart and understanding. Lucy knew there had to be a plan and helped where she could when people were moved the flotation devices into position. As the tide came in, Lucy began to lift and move. In response, the volunteers tried with all their might to pull the orca back into the deeper water. As the water got deeper, Lucy began to help herself by using her fins to pull her body backwards, to push her. As everyone worked together, a sense of hope and excitement sprouted among them. Even Lucy looked at the helpers with a sense of hope with her dark and understanding eyes. Finally, the time came when the orca was able to move on her own, under her own power. she swiveled her body and turned so that she was facing the open sea. The buoyancy aids came loose and floated to the surface, but it didn't matter anymore. Lucy was finally free. Before she swam away, she turned once more and looked at all the people who had helped her, from the residents to the vets to the military. She thanked them by opening her mouth and letting out a warm, clicking sound and a high-pitched, excited cry. Everyone present had tears in their eyes, and at the same time a feeling of joy and pride. That was the amazing story of Lucy. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe us.